My name is Justin Leonard. I'm an applications engineer for MLC CAD. Just a little bit about myself. I actually have an AS in drafting design from Eastern Florida State College, which is the fancy name for Brevard Community College. I know some of you are joining us from Florida. Maybe that rings a bell, maybe it doesn't. I also have a BS Mechanical Engineering from the University of Central Florida. And this past December, I finished my master's in Modeling and Sim, also from UCF. A little more about just my work history. I started off at Harris Corporation in Melbourne, Florida. So started in the commercial space sector, and I have a picture over here of one of the first satellites I worked on called MUOS for the United States Navy. This is it being loaded into a Delta rocket. From there, I stuck with Harris, but switched gears over to maritime, to the marine arena, and started working for a company called Maritime Communication Services. So our task was we built these buoys, and they're very large buoys, about 65 tons. Each of them had 3 decks, 2 30-kilowatt generators, and they were connected to sensors out on the subsea floor in the Mediterranean. And those were basically searching for hydrocarbons. From there, we moved to Huntsville, Alabama, made a little shift. My wife and I, we basically had our firstborn, so we were looking for a little opportunity to be closer to her parents. So I started working for SAIC up there, and we basically went around the country using coordinate measurement machines, the big 3D scanners on the arms, scanning anything the military wanted a model for, a lot of old Soviet stuff that our military didn't have any sort of CAD models, anything like that. This is actually a picture of us scanning the inside of the Apollo 16 command module. That was a project we got to do for the Smithsonian. So I have about 10 years of experience, worked on a multitude of different projects and different CAD packages. Just a little bit about MLC as well. So we actually just celebrated our 34th anniversary this past February. So SOLIDWORKS came out in 1995. You do that math, it doesn't quite add up. I think we're actually selling CAD key to begin with, if any of you guys have still heard of that. But as soon as SOLIDWORKS came out in 95, we saw the writing on the wall, realized this is where we wanted to be, and we started selling SOLIDWORKS that year. So we have a really great relationship with SOLIDWORKS, and we're located pretty much anywhere in the southern United States. Our headquarters is actually in Austin, Texas, and I'm broadcasting to you from Tampa, Florida. So anywhere you see a state in this picture, we have some sort of presence or an office there. So lots of people who are happy to help you out, and hopefully I'll be able to show you what we can do. All right, so what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to start off by finishing a design that we've already created. We're going to add a windscreen to a boat. Then we're going to convert a generic shape that we have on the stern of our boat into some decking. We're going to make it intelligent. So once we do that, we're going to create a drawing of that intelligent deck piece that we're going to be adding. And we're going to make some precise measurements, and I'm going to show you a little bit about some of the tools that we can use to automate processes. So from there, we're going to create a photorealistic rendering. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to add a windscreen to our boat. So I'm going to jump over here into SOLIDWORKS. We can see that we have a model of a boat, but it's not complete. So first thing I want to do is I want to look at adding a windscreen. I can see I have some glass pieces here. I have kind of like a panoramic roof. I have some pieces here over on the side, but I don't have anything for this windscreen. And that's because it's a very complex shape, right? Having to figure out how to mold this so that it fits into this area and this area up here is not the easiest task. So one of the tools that SOLIDWORKS gives us is it lets us do top-down assembly design. And what that means is that I can create a part in the context of the assembly. So I can use references that already exist from within my assembly and add them into my part. So just for the benefit of time, I've gone ahead and done that a little bit. So I'm going to take this part called windscreen that I already have. Let's check it out. If I edit it in place, I can see that I have 2 sketches in my design. I have a 2D sketch right here on this top plane that I've created, but the 3D sketch was the really tricky one. If I come down here, you can see it highlighted in blue. I was able to take the geometry that already existed in my assembly and just kind of trace this outline path right here to create the 3D sketch that I need to create my windshield. So let's go ahead and open this part up so we can see things just a little bit more clearly. So here are my 2 sketches. Here's my 2D sketch and my 3D sketch. To create some geometry, I'm just going to go to our surface tools and create a loft. All I need to do is select the 2 profiles I want to make up my loft, and SOLIDWORKS will do the rest for me there. Oops, let's grab that. I clicked the wrong edges here. So let's do here, and let's do here. Crossing, sorry about that. And we just need to grab this guy and put him over there. There we go. So now we have our 3D surface, but we need to actually add some geometry. We need to thicken it up. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that. And let's use our surface tools, and we're going to thicken this guy. We'll go ahead and set it to 1/10 of an inch here. And now we've gone from just our 2 sketch profiles to some actual 3D geometry. So this is going to be glass. I'm just going to go ahead and add an appearance. Go to glass, clear glass. We'll drop this on. There we go. Let's go ahead and save this. So updates our assembly. And now we can see inside of our assembly, we can see that we have a windshield. Great. All right. So one of the other benefits of using this kind of top-down assembly design is that I can choose whether I want to have external references or not external references. Meaning that let's say that you guys have some sort of change or maybe a different model boat that's similar to this one, but maybe this cockpit comes out a little bit farther, so you have to make some changes to the outline shape here. If you keep external references on, you change your shape, it's going to automatically update the shape of my windshield too, because it's going to update my sketch profile. So just some good ways that you can save some time by keeping everything up to date and in sync. All right, so what did we do? We use SOLIDWORks top-down assembly techniques to dynamically create a design that we're going to be able to keep updated automatically, so I don't have to go back and do it myself. And if I need to make any changes in the future, I can also use other components in my assembly to do that. So next, we want to convert a generic shape of a deck that's on the stern of our boat into something with a little bit more intelligence, something that we're going to be able to get some more data from. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I come around back here to the stern of the ship, I can see I have this kind of wooden block. There's not much to it. It's just kind of a dumb extrusion, just a dumb solid. So I want to take this shape and I want to create some decking to it, something that looks more like what's on the foredeck over here. So I'm just going to open up this part and take a look at what we got. All right, so I want to go ahead and start by creating a sketch on this top face. I'm just going to draw a line. Take that, and we're going to add a relationship between this line and this edge. Make them collinear so they're right on top of each other. That looks good. So now I can go ahead and sketch out what we call a weldment, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So I'm going to go over here to weldments, and we're going to create a structural member. So weldments are a library of different shapes. In this case, we're using woodments, which are going to have different decking elements. And I can choose my size that I want to set. So I'm going to go ahead and click here on this piece, and I can see that it's created a decking plank of wood. So all I want to do is I want to change my profile here so that this is the edge we're using for my line, since that's coincident with our edge here, the edge of our solid. Once I have that, I'm going to say OK. So we can see what we've done. We've created one piece of wood here, and I've already set this material to be teak, our other kind of wood. So if I want to go look in here, edit material, I can see I have several different woods to choose from, and I'm going to actually get the mass for this part. Now if I go to metals, something like that, I'm going to see that we have more properties, and these are going to come in handy if we need to do simulation, something like that. We want to look at thermal properties, tensile strength. But for the wood, all I really care about is the weight. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply and hit close. So let's take this one piece that we've added and go ahead and create some more of them. So I'm going to make a pattern to do that. So I'm just going to select the created, and we want to tell SOLIDWORKS to pattern this piece of wood using this edge to set our direction. And I want to go all the way from that edge up to this edge right here. I just have to choose a starting point, and that's going to go ahead and place these for me. So two ways I can do this. I can either set the distance between my planks of wood. In this case, it's 1.63 inches. Or I can set the number of planks of wood I want. So it's set to 69 right now. If I change this to 70, I can see that that number changed just a little bit. If we pop it up to 80, we can see it starts to change a lot. Let's go ahead and leave this at 70. We'll say OK. And now we have our wood planking for our deck. So now all I need to do is trim these guys to the shape of this dumb solid that I had. So I'm just going to create a sketch right here on this face, and we're going to grab the outside edges of that face, and I just need to cut away the excess. So I'm going to make a cut. Go ahead and set this to through all. I can remember I learned on Pro E was kind of my first CAD software. If I wanted to make a cut like this, I'd have to go into Sketch and draw a big rectangle here, so it knew to cut everything between this line and that rectangle. In SOLIDWORKS, they thought ahead and just added this flip side to cut button. And all I have to do is say OK, and it's going to go ahead and figure that out for me. No need to actually draw any extra sketch elements. So we'll let SOLIDWORKS make those cuts, and there we go. So I don't need these sketches anymore. I'm going to go ahead and lose some of this geometry. I don't need to see it. Let's go ahead and hide this guy too. And there's our pieces of wood. All right, we'll go ahead and save that. So we use SOLIDWORKS to use simple tools and create some geometry which can be converted into intelligent data. So let me show you why it's intelligent now when we create a drawing. So let's go back to SOLIDWORKS. We're going to take this model that we just created, and let's create a new drawing using that model. Just select an ANSI B-size landscape here. And I can just drag and drop in the view that I want to show. From here, if I want to add a little color, change the scale, I can do all that kind of stuff. We'll go ahead and leave the scale the way it is. So I have all my individual pieces of wood. What I don't have is a list of what they are. And that's really what I'm after. I want to be able to send some info down to the guys who are going to be actually cutting out these pieces of wood. So I'm going to go to Tables. I'm going to make a weldment cut list. We'll select our drawing view, accept all these defaults. And SOLIDWORKS is going to go ahead and generate a table showing what all the different lengths of wood are that make up my model. To make things even easier to understand, I'm just going to hit Auto Balloon. And SOLIDWORKS is going to go ahead and indicate, using my list over here on the left, what each item is. I'm going to change my attachment here to faces. Makes things a little bit more clear. And there we go. So now if I want to check this, we can say item number 4, for example. I can come over here and look at my list. I see that there's 2 of them, which makes sense. It's a symmetrically shaped shape here, right? So I have 2 on each side. And I can see that the overall length is going to be 41.24 inches. That's pretty cool. So now I can take this, and let's say I want an individual sheet, maybe for each of these, but let's just start with one. So I'm going to create a new sheet and attach it to my drawing. And let's go back to my model views. Let's create another view up here on the top. But this time, I'm going to go to Select Bodies, and we're going to choose one of these bodies right here. So let's go ahead and say this guy. Say OK. And now all I'm looking at is this one representation, this one piece from my model. So let's go ahead and make him a little bit bigger. Kind of hard to see when he's that small. We'll go 1/8. Move him back down here. All right, so what kind of information can I get from my model? Well, let's go ahead and add some dimensions. So if I want to do an overall dimension, go ahead and do that here, 40.23. I want to get a dimension, just this top edge, this bottom edge. I can do that. This is actually rounded on this side, so I'm going to get a radius if I select right here. Bring that down a little bit. Same thing on this side. It depends on which piece of wood we click on, but I believe this one's going to have a radius as well. And finally, let's go ahead and get just an overall width of our piece of wood, 1.5. If I want to create a view showing the side view, I can just go to View, Projected View, select our model here, and we'll get that view. We'll just show a thickness, which should be 3/4 of an inch. One other cool thing is that since this is being read from the first page as well, if I go to Annotation and Balloon, all I have to do is pick on this model, and it's going to know that this is object number 5, bomb number 5 here. So if I want to check that, I can see my overall length is 40.23 here. Let's go back to sheet number 1, look at object number 5, and we see 40.23 is our overall length. All right, and some other info about SOLIDWORKS and models and drawings is that this data is always linked. I can't update my drawing model or vice versa. So if I have another change somewhere down the line, again, maybe you have a similar version of the ship, but you need to make an update, something like that, there's some changes, it's going to automatically update this drawing for you. Even your dimensions, if I go back to sheet 2, you're going to find that these are going to update as well. Again, saving you lots of work from having to go back and manually do all that kind of stuff yourself. All right, we can go ahead and, we don't really need to save this. We'll go ahead and save this guy. And let's save our assembly while we're at it. All right, back to our presentation. So I was able to quickly generate automatically cut lists, balloons, and dimensions that are going to improve your processes. So next we want to create some photorealistic renderings for marketing. So here's how we go about doing that. We have some new software called SOLIDWORKS Visualize. I say it's new for 2016. So basically the two rendering packages that lead the world is a software package called BunkSpeed and another one called KeyShot. SOLIDWORKS for 2016, actually it was last year in 2015, bought out BunkSpeed and we renamed it SOLIDWORKS Visualize. So we're going to get all the great tools that we had with BunkSpeed and we're going to be able to import, export, and directly update models directly from SOLIDWORKS. So let's go ahead and import our model. Let's go to Documents, we'll find our ship here. Scroll down and get our top level model. These defaults are okay. So we'll give this a second to go ahead and bring this in. But what I want to show you is just how easy it is to make beautiful looking renderings. So it's super easy to use. All we're going to do is start with different materials over here in our right pane, and we're just going to drag and drop them directly onto our model. So we brought in our model. We can see we're only seeing part of it right now. That's just because there's a plane here on the floor that we need to change that's cutting it off. So we'll go ahead and click this and tell it to bring it above the floor. Let's see, snap to floor. There we go. All right, and I know this doesn't look the prettiest right now. That's because we're in a real basic mode where we're going to be applying materials. So let's go back to my model, and we can go ahead and start applying some things. So first of all, let's go ahead and brighten this, or decrease the brightness just a little bit. It's a little too bright right now. Let's see. All right, so I'm just going to go over to my appearances, and these are separated into different categories. Paint's going to be the one I want to start off with. And I'm just going to start dragging and dropping this white paint onto the different parts of my ship that are white. Now it came in with whatever colors we had this already set to in SOLIDWORKS. Most of these were white, if you recall, but it's a different kind of white. So SOLIDWORKS Visualize has its own set of colors, palettes, materials, and for rendering, they're actually more accurate than the SOLIDWORKS one. So it's just nice to be able to grab these and drop them on. Almost got all of these guys. All right, so that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and add some of these black parts here, add some black paint. And again, you get a nice little preview. I haven't let go of my mouse button yet. It's just showing me what this is going to look like whenever I do let go. So it's real easy to preview what you're going to end up with. Go ahead and grab the other side here. I apologize if this is rotating a little slow whenever I do these presentations. The Windows changes the graphics quality a little bit, so things move just a tiny bit slower. All right, so we have most of our paint applied. Let's go ahead and use some of our materials, like our metal. So I have some cleats located on this thing. I'm just going to grab some chrome. We'll drag and drop these onto the chrome parts of our ship. And there's also another setting I do want to point out where you can have all these materials set to, for example, these cleats, since they're one part, update. If you drag and drop on one, update all of them automatically. It just takes a little bit longer to load, so in the interest of time, I set it up this way. All right, let's just get this railing in the back. I'll be good there. A few more pieces of hardware. And I'll be honest with you guys, this gets pretty addicting. So I mean, we do this for rendering. It looks nice, but you can spend a ton of time doing this, or a little bit of time doing this, and still end up with something great, which is nice. But you know, especially somebody like me, I'm not making quite as many models as I used to anymore. So when I get to come out here and actually, you know, make something, make some pretty pictures, stuff like that, this starts to be a lot of fun, and I get in trouble. So I don't want to spend too much more time doing it. Let's go ahead and add some glass as well, transparent glass. That looks good. And you can see that this kind of looks like there's two pieces on top of each other. That's just left over from my other model, so I need to hide one of these parts right here. Let's go ahead and do that. So you do get like a little tree in here, just like you would in SOLIDWORKS, but it's organized by color. So if I pick part right here, I can see I have two different colors. One of them's teak, so I'm going to hide this one. And let's go back to our materials. I'm going to go to wood, and I have a teak decking right here. Let's drag and drop that one there. Same here. And we'll go ahead and do inside our cockpit floor as well. Right there. Okay, that looks good. All right, so we have our model more or less the way we want it. I could spend more time on this, like I said, but I think you guys get the gist. You know, we have some other materials here. For example, if I wanted to apply some fabric, I can go over here to soft fabric, and we can drag and drop these onto our seats. Add a little red to our flag up here at the top and make that look real sharp. All right, so now that we have most of our basic materials applied, I want to go ahead and start worrying about the lighting. So lighting is controlled by what we call a lighting environment. It's going to be an HDRI file. So I already have a couple of files set up that I want to use, so I'm just going to go change this from appearances, and I'm going to go to environments, and we're going to drag and drop an environment I have. Let's see if I can find it. We have a bunch of them here. It's called St. Andrews. Let's see. Let that apply. We'll give it just a second to go ahead and apply it. So what this is going to do, as I said, it's going to set up our light source. So this HDRI has its own light source already set up. We can see that the lighting actually changed a little bit here on the ship. If I go to my environmental settings, there's this white background. I'm going to turn that off so you can see the actual environment. There we go. We get a look at it. We can control the size, shape, rotation for this. So I'm actually going to come here, and I want to rotate this guy a little bit. I have a picture that I intend on using, and it's going to be this one right here. And I can see when I look at this picture that my lighting source is kind of coming over here from the right side of the picture. So I want to set my ship up to be the same way. So I'm just going to rotate my environment here, and let's key this in to about 285. And that's going to change that. Let's change our brightness, and let's do 1.5. Brighten things up just a little bit. All right, if I want to use this background picture, I could add it to my library or straight from Windows Explorer. You can't see it, but I have a second monitor where I'm just dragging and dropping it straight into my model. There we go. All right, we can position this around a little bit. So my model, the kind of final rendering, I don't know if you guys saw it for too long, but I have this set up so the water line is visible, and you can kind of see the underside of the hull, kind of the draft part of the ship. So rather than do that, just in the interest of time, I'm just going to drop the whole model down to the water line. So I'm going to go over here to my model. Let's grab the whole thing, and we're going to key this into 1.53, and you can see that's going to drop it right down to about the water line of the ship. So again, if you wanted to spend a couple extra minutes, you could get it set up like the final version I'm going to show you here in a minute, but you get a pretty good final version just like this. I can also change, if I want, my perspective, bring that in a little closer to the camera. So all of this that we've been doing is in what we call a preview mode. Now we can go ahead and turn on the actual ray tracing and see what this thing looks like. So we'll give that a second to key on. It's going to track our light source and see how all the different lights from our light source are going to fall on our ship. All the reflections we're going to get in the glass, all that kind of stuff. And it's also going to start to generate shadows. SOLIDWORKS Visualize, also to mention, I talked about KeyShot for just a second. It's pretty much 100% CPU usage. SOLIDWORKS Visualize, however, uses your CPU, but it also utilizes your graphics card as well, so it speeds up processing a little bit. So here we get an idea of just the way that light's hitting our model. We can see we kind of have a dark side over here. It's a little bit light over here. You can kind of see the separation of light. And you can see that this is rendering and getting finer and finer pretty much every second that we sit here. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this out, but it's really easy to render. If I wanted to, I would just name my project where I want to place it. And I'll also mention that there's 2 versions of this software. One you get for no additional cost with SOLIDWORKS Professional and Premium, and that's called SOLIDWORKS Standard. And one of the great things about Standard, if you start to look at other rendering packages, is that they charge you extra to be able to control your render passes and your maximum resolution. That's not the case here with SOLIDWORKS Visualize. Really, all you're getting with Professional are animation tools. So right now, I could bump these numbers up for resolution to whatever I needed it to be. If I needed this to cover a mural-sized wall in my corporate headquarters, something like that, that's no problem. I could blow this thing up to be huge. So let's go ahead and accept this just the way it is, though. I'm going to pause that, and let's go back and look at what we ended up with. So that was the final one that I came up with. So all I did to get the rest of this effect was I added a second plane right here at about the water line, and I just faded it out. And then I created one more plane down here to drop the shadow on. So you get kind of that effect like you see, in the boating magazines where they have a boat in Bermuda or in the Keys or something like that, where you can actually see the shadow on the ocean floor, which is pretty cool. So with SOLIDWORKS Visualize, we're able to quickly design realistic marketing materials, and again, that's at no additional cost. If you're interested in any of the animation, I do have, I'm a bit of a car guy, so I have a Corvette that I built in SOLIDWORKS, and straight here from the driver's seat, just did kind of a rendering where I can spin this around, look out all the windows, look at the gauges, see all that kind of cool stuff. And you see these kind of things, and there's actual companies that have used bunk speed, like GM and Ford, that when they have a new model that comes out and they put it on their website where you can customize the vehicle, you can actually get these kind of 360 views from the driver's seat, from the middle row, that kind of stuff. I have one more on my desktop just of the car from the outside, so you can see, again, adding the lighting background, you get all the correct reflections, great lighting sources. It's just a real great package. It's crazy that it doesn't cost anything extra for how good it is. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation. And I think I may have lost it there. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and just hop back here. So in summary, what did we do? Well, with SOLIDWORKS, you're going to get better products with 3D history-based modeling. You're going to get fast, easy to create and update drawings. As I mentioned, they're always going to be linked. So if you have an ECO, engineering change order, something like that you need to make a change, it's going to update that drawing for you. You're going to be able to decrease your time to market with time-saving tools like top-down assembly design. You're going to get photorealistic renderings for your marketing department at no extra cost. And you get expert training available with MLC CAD Systems. So that's actually it for my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'd love to open it up and see what I can help you with. So go ahead and like Marcus mentioned earlier, if you go to that right pane, there's a question section. So if you have something you want to type in there to have asked, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability, I'd be happy to do that now.
So far we've had a few questions regarding creation of hull, and we do have several customers that are building hulls inside SOLIDWORKS. We don't have an example for that, but one of the big goals of this webinar was to get the conversation started. So if anybody has seen something here and would like to see more, the contact information is there. Justin, Ian, or myself, I'm happy to help you out and get you additional information or maybe a customized presentation to make sure that this suits your needs.